So I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to introduce Bebe Moore Campbell. Miss Campbell's novel, 72-Hour Hold, is opening up the reader's mind and society's views on mental illness. So here's a little background. Bebe Moore Campbell is the author of 3 New York Times bestsellers, Brothers and Sisters, Singing in the Comeback Choir, and What You Owe Me, which was also a Los Angeles Times Best Book of 2001. Her other works include the novel Your Blues Ain't Like Mine, which was a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, and the winner of the NAACP Image Award for Literature. Ms. Campbell is a member of the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill and a co-founding member of the NAMI chapter in Inglewood, California. She is a commentator for National Public Radio and a contributing editor for Essence magazine. Her articles have appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, USA Today Weekend, Black Enterprises, Ebony, and numerous other publications. 72-Hour Hold is the powerful story of a mother trying to cope with and find treatment for her daughter's bipolar disorder. The title 72-Hour Hold refers to the amount of time psychiatric facilities can hold an adult patient against their will after a violent episode. Bebe Moore Campbell's novel revolves around a mother, Keri Whitmore, a successful African-American shop owner and a single mother in Los Angeles, and her attractive and intelligent daughter, Trina. Trina suffers from bipolar disorder, and once she turns 18 and is ready to attend Brown University, drugs and alcohol exacerbate her problem. Keri struggles with her daughter's emotional swings and multiple 72-hour holds in the hospital when she finally gives up on the traditional mental health system. She finds a mental health intervention group that operates like the Underground Railroad, moving house to house across the country as they force Trina to learn to stay on her medication and in therapy. Bebe Moore Campbell's moving story is for anyone who has ever faced insurmountable obstacles and prayed for a happy ending, only to discover she'd have to reach deep within herself to fight for it. So it's my pleasure to introduce Bebe Moore Campbell.
Good evening. Thank you. It's good to be here. I usually talk a little bit and give you some background. I'm going to do just a tiny bit, but I had such a wonderful entree there, and you've got such a good synopsis. I thought I would start it with the reading and just pull you into the story, and then we could talk about mental health. I want to thank New Words for bringing me here this evening. It's a pleasure to stand before you. And thank you for introducing me and for setting up the reading. A 72-hour hold is indeed the length of time that a psychiatric facility can hold a mentally ill person against his or her will if that person meets the criteria of a danger to self or a danger to others or gravely disabled. The part of the book I'm going to read is right after the daughter, Trina, has had a 72-hour hold. 3 days. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for proper medication to start to work. You do the math. So this is really a Band-Aid for a hemorrhage. And when the mother brings the daughter home, she discovers that all is not well. Looks that way in the beginning, but all is not well. I'm taking my meds again, Trina announced one night, after 2 or 3 days of relative quiet. I just turned off the television in the family room and was about to go to sleep. Trina called to me from her room, which was at the top of the back stairs. Her door was partially opened, and she was lying across her bed. "Did you hear what I said, Mommy?" "Yes, honey." "Come here, Mommy." I went into her room. Trina had picked up all the clothes that she dumped on the floor. The top of her bureau was neatly arranged. Comb and brush here, perfume there. She was wearing jeans and an iron shirt. When I sat down on the edge of her bed, she threw her arms around me and kissed my cheek. "You're a good mommy," she said, resting her head against my chest. I went to bed, warning myself not to feel better. That would be like Sally Hemings sending out wedding invitations. The next morning when Trina woke up and came to me with a glass of water and swallowed her pill in front of me, I tried to kickbox the hope that surged through me. Get back. But what's a foot against hope? Trina swallowed medicine and my day became full of smiles and sunshine. Maybe it's over, I told Maddie. A few days, of course, wouldn't banish mania. It would take weeks for the meds even to begin to be effective. Still, Trina's intent was important. Maddie's own daughter was peaceful, compliant, and living at home. Gloria's son was back at his board and care, once again attempting to be sober and medicated. My friends' children were finally getting it. Why not Trina? What followed were days when my shoulders steadily crept downward and my breaths became steady and even. I worked a full day here and there instead of my recent split shifts. The headache that had taken residence above my left eyebrow began to recede. At night, I slept. One afternoon, I went to Orlando's apartment. There was barely any conversation between us. We made love quickly and efficiently. For so long, I'd forbidden myself to want Orlando, the smell of him, the weight of him, his voice when it was low and throaty. But that day, he was my drug of choice, my self-medication. "You ain't fooling nobody," Francis whispered when I returned to the shop. "Look at you just smiling all over your little self. Must have been good." "Mind your business," I said. Throughout the good times and the bad times, Clyde never called me, although I knew he spoke with Trina, if not regularly, at least often enough for him to be able to gauge her mood fluctuations. I'd heard her talking with him, jumping from one topic to the next, her mouth going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Listening, I thought to myself, do you get it now? I came home one evening, and Boy Man was standing in my kitchen. Up close, he looked like insufficient funds, a bounced check on weed. "Why are you here?" I asked. Before he could answer, Trina came clickety-clacking down the stairs, high heels, red lips, bright cheeks, a dress the size of a Ritz cracker, odor weed clinging to her. "Here we go, take off." Whoosh. "Trina," I began, placing myself between her and Boy Man. She waved her hand, which was a warning that said, "I can become a fist." "I don't want you to go out, Trina. You're not well. Bitch, you're not well." "She's not well," I said to Boy Man, who stared back with interest. "If you leave here, you can't come back," I said to Trina, my voice shrill. The door slammed and then again against the inside wall as I yanked it open way too hard. The car was in the driveway, the motor running. "Trina, you come back here." I could hear her laughing. They were both laughing. I raced around them, got to the car before they did, and stood in front of it, my arms stretched out wide. Jesus on the cross, right? Trina had the nails. Glancing back, I saw jazzy Mrs. Winslow watching from her window. Across the street, another neighbor's shade was raised. 2 car doors slammed. I didn't move. Boy Man backed up, went around me. "Girl, your mama crazy," he said as he took off. Getting there. My body was shaking as I walked back to my house. Something beneath the quivers broke through the band that held my mind in place when I saw Mrs. Winslow still peeking. "What the hell are you looking at? She's not some freak." She slammed her door. I slammed my door. Trina returned the next day, disheveled, glassy-eyed, stoned, and manic. I was sipping coffee in the kitchen when she came in. The hot liquid sat on my tongue unswallowed as I watched her. "I'm taking my meds," she screamed, pulling out a bottle of the mood stabilizers from her purse. She poured herself a glass of water, then shook 2 pills into her hand and gulped them down. "See?" I left for the store knowing she would sleep, but not sure for how long. I canceled with Orlando. By the time I returned home, Trina was walking out the door again. Another night, another rendezvous. The next day at work, I called a list of board and care facilities and visited a few during my lunch hour. They were all horrible, straight out of One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, inhabited by unkempt women with missing front teeth, men who sat still as warthogs, looking for prey. She can't live here, not my baby. I called Maddie that night. Come to the meeting next week, she said. You're under pressure. No, I was under water. Melody's mother, with her grandchildren yelling in the background, listened to me. Do you think that maybe Melody could talk to her, try to get her back on track? Well, Celestine began, then excused herself as something crashed behind her. She was gone for a while. When she got back on the phone, she sounded like someone who'd just pulled a double factory shift. The thing of it is, Melody's doing good, yeah, and I don't want her around nobody who ain't. You talk about Melody influenced your daughter. Suppose your child influenced mine. And me with these grandbabies, too. You have a point. Didn't mean to. All that wildness, I'm not going down that road no more. Melody know that, too. If you don't take your meds, better find you another home, yeah. Maybe that's what you need to tell your girl. Right. You living a good life up there in the hills. You probably got the money and insurance to go along with every little crazy thing your child do. Me? I ain't got it like that. I can't be bailing nobody out time after time after time. No. I told Melody, you don't stay on your program, you on your own. And all Mama wants to know is, do you want to be cremated or buried? I'm serious. When somebody black get to acting a fool out in these here streets, the cops gonna shoot them and go on about their business, just like they killed that man over on Crenshaw. What man? Some man on Crenshaw yesterday near where those guys be selling stuff. He was trying to fight people, acting all crazy. Somebody called the cops and they shot him, yeah. They say the man used to walk up and down Crenshaw Boulevard all day long. I could taste fear in my mouth as I drove toward home. Maybe I began to grieve in my car, shedding tears for Crazy Man, crying hard as if I knew him. Or maybe I was crying because I didn't want to know him. Several scattered bouquets marked the spot where Crazy Man had been killed. There was dried blood on ground so close to where I lived, it might as well have been right at my front door. He was going off, Mr. Bean Pie said. Started screaming and hollering, talking about the CIA was after him, that we was all working for the CIA. Then he started tearing down the street, pulling off his clothes, CD Man said. By the time the cops came, he was near butt naked. This last contribution from one of the incense people who added, but they ain't have no right to shoot the man, even if he was crazy. I got me a cousin act just like him. Don't we all? The telephone began ringing as soon as I got in the house. I thought it would be Orlando. He'd been staying over the last few nights, but the call was collect. Mommy, Trina said, her voice amped up with excitement, with manic pleasure. I'm in jail, and I need for you to come get me right now. What happened, Trina? What jail? Where's your father? I didn't do anything. Get me out of here right now. Where's your father? Why are you in jail? What did you do? They said I stole something from Saks. You get me out of here, she bellowed. Shoplifting. I could barely breathe. Does your father know where you are? No, he went out and Aurelia wasn't here. He left me with the housekeeper. I tried to ignore my rage and concentrate on my leverage. I will not bail you out unless you agree to go to the hospital. I don't need to go to any damn hospital. Then stay in jail, I said, dial tone. Will you accept the charges? Part 2. You're going to the hospital, Trina. If you leave, I'll revoke the bail and you'll be arrested again, and you'll stay in jail. Do you understand me? Yes, Mommy. The jail was on Martin Luther King Boulevard. The bail bondsman didn't arrive for more than an hour, even though his office was right down the street. As soon as he came in, shaking the building with his slow, heavy steps, he disappeared downstairs to take care of the bail and didn't come back up for another hour. Sitting in the waiting area, I tried to make my mind go blank, to pretend that waiting for my kid at the police station was as normal as tap water. He returned with bad news. He did not accept personal checks, and he didn't accept credit cards. My bank is closed. I can't get more than $300 out of the ATM machine. I don't want her sitting in jail overnight. Sometimes that's the best thing for him. When he looked at me, there wasn't a trace of kindness in his face. Is there somebody you could call? Is the father in the picture? Yes. No, oh, Jesus. Just hearing the word father, I could feel anger exploding in every part of me. Orlando wasn't at home. His cell phone went right to message center. I didn't leave a message. Neither Maddie nor Gloria answered. Frances had just bought a house, and I knew she didn't have any money to spare. Bethany answered on the third ring. I'll be right there, she said, after I explained what had happened. She handed me an envelope as soon as she walked in the door. What's she in for? Shoplifting. Poor baby. She was quiet for a moment. We found Angelica, she said. Where was she? on the street. Where is she now? At my house. I've got friends staying with me on rotating shifts. So what's your plan? Bethany asked. I sighed. I'm going to take her to the hospital. She said she'd go. I'll go with you. The bail bondsman disappeared downstairs again, and when he came back up, he told me that Trina would be released after she signed the paperwork. Another hour passed before Trina emerged. From across the room, all I could see were her lips, bright orange and shiny. The closer she got, the more colors I saw. Blue eyelids, rust-colored cheeks, black eyebrows. Trina was giggling at some private joke. We're going to the hospital, I said, taking her arm. This is my friend Bethany. She loaned me your bail money. Bethany took her other arm. She didn't resist. Trina got into the front passenger seat of the car and buckled up her seatbelt. In between the giggling, she sang. Bethany sat right behind her. I watched the traffic and Trina, but I couldn't do both at once. At the second red light, I heard a sound. Click, click, the seatbelt. Bam, the door. Trina running, getting smaller and smaller. The back door opened and Bethany sprinted after her. As I watched, my car stood in traffic, not moving, cars around me blaring their horns. Finally, I parked and waited for Bethany to come back, hoping that she wouldn't be alone. Loud rhythm and blues blared from the radio. Vintage Al Green just added to the confusion. Make me want to do right, make me want to do wrong. I visualized Bethany tackling Trina to the ground. Had a crowd gathered to watch the fight? A heat flash rose up and began exploding as little pinpricks of moisture erupted all over my body. I got out of the car just to feel the air on my face and peered up and down the block. Bethany trudged resolutely toward me. My child had been swallowed up by the Los Angeles night. I let Bethany off in front of her car. She smiled. What are you going to do? I'm going to wait until Trina meets the criteria for a hold, and then I'm going to try to get conservatorship. Listen to me. Mental illness is in my father's family big time. My dad has schizophrenia. His father committed suicide. His sister had bipolar. Out of her 4 children, 2 are ill. I'm telling you, forget a hold. Forget conservatorship, which could take months, years to get. Do you want your child to be well, to be safe? That word again. Bethany. She wouldn't let me speak. At the base of my skull, a punishing headache was being born. Maybe that's why everything Bethany said seemed to have an echo, why her words overwhelmed me. I tried not to listen, but Bethany was so loud, and I felt so weak. I couldn't summon the energy to ignore her. The night in front of me was a long horror. My house would be dark and quiet, my bed like a prison. Trina wouldn't be back until she came back. I knew I'd never revoke the bail and have her arrested again. I didn't have Orlando. I didn't have Clyde. If Bethany stopped talking, I'd be alone with my aching head, my weak body that couldn't fight off undue influence. I want you to meet some people, she said. Thank you. Writers are supposed to write what they know. And I know about mental illness. I have a mentally ill family member. And I saw the illness begin to be manifested about between 8 and 9 years ago. And at that point, I was shut down completely, went right into denial, and allowed stigma to overwhelm me. I was ashamed, embarrassed. I didn't want to talk about it. I forbid anybody in the house to talk about it outside of the house. It was my deep, dark secret, except when you have a mentally ill family member, they won't keep your secret. So the behavior was broadcasting problem, problem, problem. But within the household, we were broadcasting denial, denial, denial. And I went down this road for about 3 years until finally I connected with a woman who also had a mentally ill family member. And we formed a support group with some other women. And we met every couple weeks, basically to pray for our loved ones and for ourselves. And then we found out about the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, which is an advocacy group, a 26-year-old advocacy group, 1,000 chapters across the country. advocating for those people with mental illnesses as well as the families. We took a 12-week course on the diseases of the brain, a free course that taught us about the illnesses our loved ones had: schizophrenia, a disease, a mental illness characterized by auditory hallucinations; bipolar disorder, also known as manic depressive illness, a disease of mood fluctuations varying from flat-out depression to the highs of mania. Mania being recklessness personified, violence, promiscuity, driving 100 miles an hour, rapid thoughts, not sleeping, speaking all the time, round the clock, shoplifting. And then depression, which can be the person who doesn't get out of bed and doesn't take a bath and doesn't eat or overeats. It can also be the person who's always angry. So we learned about the illnesses, learned and networked with each other, and then joined the support group, and then decided to form our own chapter in our own neighborhood, a predominantly African-American community in Los Angeles. The reason being that while everyone, all colors, everyone is affected by stigma. No one wants to say, I'm not in control of my mind. No one wants to say, the person I love is not in control of his or her mind. But people of color really don't want to say it, because we already feel stigmatized by virtue of skin color or eye shape or accent, and we don't want any more reasons for anyone to say, you're not good enough. So we really go into denial. So it was very important that we open up NAMI Inglewood in that community so that people could begin to come out of the closet. And it's been very helpful. We've grown from 12 members to more than 100. We have been advocates for our relatives and for ourselves. And most of all, we have been stigma busters, because it is my belief that stigma is part of the reason, if not most of the reason, why people go into denial and choose not to get help for these diseases. The drug addict, the alcoholic, often below those addictions, there's a mental illness, and these people are self-medicating. Which brings me to New Orleans and Mississippi and some of the violence and chaos that we just saw there. And I'm not talking about just the hurricane. I'm talking about the aftermath of Katrina. And you've heard on the news broadcast the mayor saying that they had a lot of drug addicts in New Orleans. And these were the people who, after 2 or 3 days, no crack, no cocaine, no heroin, started shooting, started becoming violent, hallucinating. But also below that drug addiction, in many cases, there's going to be a mental illness. And even among the evacuees, there's some people who have their diagnoses, who have their medication. Only now that medication is below water. So my feeling is, along with the psychologists and the battalions who are now supposedly gathering to deal with traumatic stress, and there will be that, there needs to be those who will deal with diagnosed brain disorders. And alongside them should be the pharmaceutical companies with the free medication to get people back on the meds that they're missing. And they should be prepared to give them away for some months, because we're talking about people in tight quarters, the Astrodome. And if not by this week, by next week, people around are going to know who needs medication. Okay, so it shouldn't be hard to get the psychologists in to talk with and diagnose some people and get them back on. I mean, I say it shouldn't be hard. That's wishful thinking. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to identify who needs it. Whether or not the person will take the medication is always a challenge. Again, nobody wants to say I'm not in control of my mind. So I thank you all for your kind attention. 72-hour hold came out of my need to express myself about this from a family member's perspective. I had written earlier a children's book called Sometimes My Mommy Gets Angry, which is about a little girl who has a mother with bipolar disorder, untreated bipolar disorder. And it teaches resiliency to children who find themselves with unstable parents. This was the follow-up to that book. And what I've been having as I've been crisscrossing the country has been nothing less than mental health revivals, with people really asking a lot of questions and also giving a lot of information. And so I'm glad to be in Boston tonight to further this discussion, and I thank you for your kind attention. Now, if you have any questions, either about mental illness, and I don't know all the answers, there's no PhD or MD behind my name, but I'll do my best, or about writing, I'll be happy to answer them. Yes.
My name is Chandra Backer. I'm a member of an organization called YMCA, the Manic Depressive Alliance, which meets at the Plains on Wednesday night from 6 o'clock to 9. It's a totally free group. And we have a friends and family group, as well as about 10 to 20 groups that meet with individual people so that people are looking for help. I'm going to be doing I just became a member about a year ago because I finally got the right diagnosis. And one of the bad things about free care in this country is that if you're black, you can end up misdiagnosed
Oh, yeah.
over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
I didn't get diagnosed as bipolar until March of this year through a research study at the Plains. And my life has improved so much. I'm going to do a facilitator training on September the 18th. And I'm really proud about where my life is going right now. And it's just like it's taken me 34 years to deal with and stand up here and say that, first of all, that I have bipolar, and second of all, that I'm looking to help and outreach other people because this illness in the black community is in the silent illness. People don't want dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We get members who come to the NAACP meetings who actually walk out because they don't see any other black faces. We even have a NAACP group that meets from 7 to 9 o'clock in the Jockey Building at Mass General Hospital on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, which would be more accessible for people who don't already have a job. So this supports things
Give us the name of that organization and give us a website or a phone number.
NPDA.org. The national website is the DPSA.org. Could you say this into the microphone so we get some on the stage?
Repeat it and I'll repeat it. Say it one more time.
The website for Massachusetts is NPDA.org.
The website for Massachusetts is mdda.org. And it meets at McLean on 7 to 9 on Wednesday nights. Tuesdays and Thursdays it meets at Mass General Hospital. Great. From 7 to 9. Thank you. Thank you for your courage and thank you for the information. And you're right about misdiagnosis. The Washington Post about 4 or 5 weeks ago had an expose that said even though schizophrenia, which is the most severe of the brain disorders, is found in all groups, all populations, all races, about the same percentage, black men are 4 times as likely to be diagnosed with it as white men. Latinos are 3 times as likely to be diagnosed. What we're looking for is culturally competent, culturally sensitive diagnoses. If someone is the standard, if I'm diagnosing and I think I'm normal, then I have to have a pretty broad spectrum and idea of what normal is. It can't just be people who look like me. Otherwise, everything goes awry in terms of diagnosis, because the wrong diagnosis means the wrong medication. NAMI is www.nami.org or 800-950-NAMI. And again, that's the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, 1,000 chapters across the country. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's some more time warranted. You know, but again, if you're talking about a population, and I don't know your situation, but the best insurance, the best medical insurance will afford a person 1 month a year for psychiatric and or addiction illnesses. On day 29, the nurse is packing your bags. You know, and usually it's day 26, because what they'll say is, suppose this happens again, you want 3 days left for a hold for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, I think that the beauty of a network, one that you described and also NAMI, is that you've got some folk who can be there for you and come en masse or email en masse and say, what do you mean she can't come back here? And go to the next level. Yeah. Yes.
I'm just wondering, the underground network you described in the book, is that based in any reality?
Well, the network was something I created. It was certainly something I searched for my own loved one and couldn't find it. What I found were people willing to take a child, someone under 18, and put them in a boot camp or this or that. I didn't find anybody who was willing to basically kidnap an adult. And I certainly didn't find anybody who had a facility where that mentally ill person could be taken and treated. So I didn't find the organization I created for 72-hour hold, so I made it up. But I looked. And I'd heard 8. You're saying 12?
I've actually heard from the president of MPA that it's actually 12 years. I was one who was correctly diagnosed after, I think, a year and a half at most.
Mm-hmm. It's a real journey. And I think that 12 years is, you know, particularly if you are underinsured or have no insurance, you're not going to get the latest, best medication. So it makes it even more challenging.
I have students with mental disabilities, including bipolar disorder, and I teach English to them. I was wondering if there was any literature or reading or writing assignments that you would suggest besides the book.
There is a book by a young woman with bipolar disorder, and you might just go on the website. I can't think of the name of it, but she was young, and I think it was more or less a journal. There is some literature. You're saying high school students?
Yeah, high school students.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue of misdiagnosis, I always wonder about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do with the educator to make sure
Right.
they're getting the treatment that they need or
Go on the internet. I'm sure there's some branches of NAMI, I don't know about the ones in Boston, have things for children as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. And I mean, I had the example of quote-unquote crazy man, the man on Crenshaw Boulevard, and there's a man like that in my neighborhood, matted dreadlocks who just walks. I mean, no, absolutely not. I think the example of that is the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the lack of preparation, the disdain for the weakest. I just, in my mind, I think that what a lot of those evacuees experienced at the Superdome was the second Middle Passage. So I don't think they're ready. I think it's about money. And I think unless we come up with a new model for treatment that is more, I feel more hospice-like, to cut down on costs with highly trained mental health workers, but not so dependent on the MDs and the PhDs, but just trained workers. I mean, maybe have those in supervisory positions. We've got to bring the costs down, because I don't think the insurances are going to do any givebacks. Mm-hmm.
I'm a nurse in a shelter, and I have to say that, again, as you said, once you sort of cut away some of the alcohol and drug use, the mental health just comes to the surface. But that's actually, I think that's actually the treatment plan in this country.
The real treatment plan is prison. That's the biggest mental health hospital, the prisons. Yeah, that's true. But it's a revolving door, shelters, prisons, shelters. Yeah. Yeah, but the prisons have a huge percentage of mentally ill people who are not getting treatment and who are being further victimized in the jails. Well, I thank you. No writing questions? No further writing questions? Yeah. A writing question. Persevere. I was rejected for about 5 years. I think you need to continue to read as much of the type of writing you want to do and to write every day. Just the standard. And to read good quality books and read about the art of writing and join a writer's workshop. Drown out the no's with some yeses, which I think can come in a support group. Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I had already done a lot of speaking for mental health organizations, and now since 72-Hour Hold, it's just like the floodgates. The signings are different. This really gives people it's a way to open this discussion, and I'm grateful for that. Yes. I read Toni Morrison. I read Oscar Iwelos. I read Pete Dexter. I read Terry McMillan. I read David McCullough. Getting ready to finish 1776. So a wide variety. Or I try to. I like Augustine Burroughs. I like memoirs a lot. Yes. Well, this business has changed. So I advise, there are fewer publishers. They're all conglomerates have swallowed a lot of them. There are a lot more authors, particularly authors of color, and there's only so many readers. There's self-published, there's internet, there's all kinds of books that are vying for the book buyer's dollar. So you've got to be innovative, and writing it is only half of it. The other half is promoting it and being visible and, coming up with new ways to attract new audiences. Writing is almost the easy part at this point. Yes. Am I what? I wrote a memoir. That was my second book, was Sweet Summer, Growing Up With and Without My Daddy, but it was the first half. Well, it wasn't the first half. It was the first third of my life. So I guess I could do part 2. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you all. You've been a warm and attentive audience. Thanks so much. And I'll sign your books for you.